Benedict was born about the year 480 in the castle of Nicaea, in the hilly country of central Italy. His father sent him to study in Rome when he was about 14, hoping that he would become a lawyer. But Benedict did not like the life he saw in the capital. In those days, men never knew what new horde of barbarians might suddenly raid Italy. Nothing was settled, and people, thinking that any day they might find their homes and their ways of life destroyed, lived just to enjoy themselves. Like the foolish man that Jesus told about in one of his parables, they said, "Let us eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we die." Even when he was a boy of 15, Benedict was sure that this was the wrong way to live. So one day, with the old family nurse Cyrilla, who was looking after him in Rome, he ran away to live in a cave among the mountains. He thought that by being alone, far away from the wild ways of the city, he would be able to see things more clearly and find out how God wanted him to live. And it was not long before he decided he must leave even his nurse and be quite alone by himself. One night he ran away from her and travelled till he came to a barren, rocky place among the mountains called Subiaco, where some other hermits lived. Here he found a cave underneath the ledge of a great rock rising out of a lake. One of the other hermits used to bring him regularly some bread, which he lowered by a rope into Benedict's cave, and here he lived for 3 years. During this time, people in the surrounding countryside started to talk about this young nobleman who had gone into the desert to listen to God. Some shepherds, wandering through the valley, saw him come out of his cave to gather herbs. He wore a rough dress of animal skins, and from the distance they thought he was an animal himself until he stood up. Then they went up to him and knelt and asked him to bless them. Later some people in the little village not far away heard of him and brought the sick to him, asking him to heal them. And one Easter morning a monk from a monastery in the district took some food and drink to Benedict's cave and insisted on talking to him. "Come, let us eat together," he said, "for it is Easter." "Indeed, it is Easter," answered Benedict, meaning that it was a day of great joy to him to be visited by someone else who was trying to do God's will. "It really is Easter Day," said the monk, who realized that Benedict had been alone too long to know what day or even what month it was. "No one should fast on Easter Day, and I have been sent to give you this gift by Almighty God. As I was sitting down to eat, I heard God saying to me, 'You are preparing to feast, while my servant Benedict is starving to death on the other side of the valley. So I have brought my meal to share it with you.'" Benedict was very grateful, because by this time he really was almost starving. The hermit who had brought him the bread, which he let down on a rope, did so no longer, because he thought that Benedict was dead. When the abbot of the monastery from which the monk had come died, the monks asked Benedict to come to be their abbot. At first he refused, because he knew that they were living there not so much to listen to the voice of God, as to have a comfortable time far away from the dangers of the world. He had come alone into the desert because he wanted to find some new way to live in the troubled and evil times. They had come away because they wanted to go on living very much as they had before, without the risk of the barbarians destroying them. But at last he gave in and became their abbot. He was so strict that one of the monks tried to poison him, and the story says that when he made the sign of the cross over the cup at the beginning of the meal, it suddenly smashed, and the poisoned wine was split over the table. That is why in pictures of Saint Benedict you will usually find him holding a cup. Benedict said, "May God have mercy on you, my brethren. Why have you done this to me? Did I not tell you before that there was nothing in common between my manner of life and yours? Go and find the kind of abbot you want, for you can no longer have me." And he went back to his lonely cave. But by this time so many people had heard of him, and had come out to Subiaco to live in cells near him, that he was forced to make some arrangement for looking after them. And before many years were over, 12 monasteries had been founded there, all looking to Benedict as their father. and living by the new rule he drew up for them. This rule, which is still known as the Benedictine rule, and which thousands of monks still keep, was a plan for life in a monastery. So many hours to be given to prayer, so many to work, and so many to sleep. It was the answer God had given to Benedict, who had run away from the life of Rome, and asked how men could best live in these troubled, terrible times. Benedict did not stay all his life in Subiaco. After he had founded his monasteries and given them his rule, he went away again to be by himself, at the top of another lonely mountain called Monte Cassino. But once again men followed him, wanting to be near so good and great a man of God, and at Monte Cassino there grew up the most famous monastery of all, which like the others was a school of service to God. It is still there, much larger than it was in Benedict's day, and although in the Great War of 1939 to 1945 it was damaged in battle, men of all nations helped to repair it again. At the foot of the mountain, Benedict's twin sister Scholastica founded a nunnery where women could come and live under the same Benedictine rule. And once every year, because that is all that the rule allowed, the brother and sister would meet at a hut on the mountainside, halfway between them. At one of these meetings, when they were both getting old, Scholastica could not bear to let Benedict go. She asked him to stay a little longer, but he said that he and she must obey the rule just like everyone else, and that the rule did not allow them to stay. Scholastica bowed her head on her hands and prayed. It was a lovely evening, with not a cloud in the sky. Then suddenly there was a peal of thunder, flashes of lightning, and a torrent of rain so heavy that no one could go out in it. "May God pardon you, sister," said Benedict. "What have you done?" "I asked you to let us stay together a little longer," said Scholastica, "and you would not listen to me. So I asked God, and he has listened." 3 days later, Benedict had a dream in which he saw his sister flying up to heaven in the form of a dove. And soon afterwards news was brought to him that she had died at the very moment they had seen it in the dream. He had her body brought up to Monte Cassino and buried in the grave that he had prepared for himself. It was only a few weeks later that he fell ill of a fever and was laid with her in the same tomb.